Business Podcast, where we highlight the integration of psychology and psychological principles into the world of business and organizations. I'm your host, Dr. Ernest Wayde. I was really thrilled to have my former boss, Dr. Jill Drame, on the show earlier this week. Jill is just one of the best people that I know and really one of the best leaders that I've had the pleasure of working under. Jill is somebody who cares about people, is passionate about the work, and works really hard to try to make sure that everybody in her team feels heard and supported. And I really appreciate that about her. I know I felt heard and supported, and it just highlights to me the importance of leadership in an organization. I think when you think about an organization, you have the business leaders, the CEOs, the executives, and those are all critical in terms of helping to direct the direction of the organization. And then you have the people managers, the people who are responsible for teams of people, groups of people who sometimes can be executive leaders as well. But there are certainly in larger organizations, they're just people who just manage people. And those are leaders of people as well. And I think it's really important to appreciate and recognize the important role that both of these people play, both at the business leaders and of the people leaders as well. I know certainly in my experience, I've been very fortunate to have had some great examples of leaders and showing me how to lead, what it's like to lead. And I've been very fortunate to experience these leaders throughout my life. I'll share a few with you. The first one that comes to mind is Dr. Forrest Skogan. It'll come as no surprise to everyone that these are all psychologists. But the first one is Dr. Forrest Skogan, who was one of my mentors in graduate school. I went to graduate school at the University of Alabama, Roll Tide, and Forrest is one of my mentors there. And the things that I appreciated about him was that he was just very calm, he was direct, and he was very straightforward. He was a very nice guy and a very great guy to talk to, and really just a pleasure to have as a mentor. But he really taught me the importance of being calm in all situations. When people were losing their heads, he was the calm one, and he was very direct in situations and very straightforward, which I really appreciate. I really appreciate that approach. I appreciate knowing where I stand with someone and what I need to do in order to get their approval or to meet the requirements that they set. So I really appreciate that about Forrest. The next one that comes to mind is Dr. Martha Crowther. Martha was also at the University of Alabama, also one of my mentors there. And what I remember about Martha was that she was just driven and energetic. I never saw Martha without a smile on her face. She had this nice big grin and was just always energetic about something. She worked way too hard, but somehow always had more energy to give and was able to share that energy with me and with others. And just being able to see her drive to accomplish the goals that she'd set was really helpful to me in being able to mirror that in the work that we did together. And so I've taken that from her, always having that drive and that energy and demonstrating that to people as a leader. The next one that comes to mind is Dr. Heather Smith. And I met Heather during my internship years, and she was actually one of my my mentors there in the internship program. But what I really appreciated about Heather was that she pushed me to be autonomous, which was appropriate given the time where I was. It was, moving from graduate school to internship, but she was also supportive whenever I needed it. I didn't realize at the time, but I understood later how she was able to help push me along, give me confidence, even in the situations where I didn't feel like I was quite sure. She helped me to build that confidence, and yet it was always supportive to me. I never felt like I couldn't go to her or that I couldn't get the support that I needed, which is a great balance. Very hard as a leader to have the appropriate balance to be able to give people the support they need without smothering them, pushing them to be autonomous so that they can push themselves and reach the goals and the limits that they can achieve without providing too much risk. So it's a very careful balance, and Heather did that really well. The last one that comes to mind is actually Jill, Dr. Jill Drame, who was who was my boss when I worked in part in the VA. And one of the things that I love about Jill, and there's so much to love, but one of the things I love about Jill is that she was invested in me as a person, as well as one of her employees. Jill had this great way of making everybody who worked for her or with her feel like they were important and they were the most important thing to her when she was talking to you. She cared about you as a person, was invested in your life, and made you feel like you could go to her for anything. It's just a great skill to have because she was extremely busy, but yet she was able to do this with everybody, and I really appreciate that about Jill. I try to mirror some of these things in my own leadership style, but it's a constant process. Leadership is a process. It is not a goal. It is a continuous, constant focus on developing yourself, and if you're a leader, developing other people as well. There's that balance, that tension of helping other people develop, helping other people improve their skills, while also paying attention to your own leadership skills and your own leadership abilities. I think my approach has evolved over time. When I was first a leader, I didn't have any training in leadership. And I wasn't a psychologist, and hadn't received any training in that area. So it was kind of challenging for me. And I remember not paying attention to people. I paid attention to the work, and was very focused on the work. And I was very knowledgeable about the work, but I was not knowledgeable or really concerned about the people that worked for me, the people who did the work. It was not until I went to graduate school and got my degrees in psychology that I understood the link between the people and the work. It's a clear link. It's pretty obvious, but I didn't see it. I didn't see it, and I have worked with a lot of leaders and managers who don't see it and appreciate it. Leadership is hard. It's you're constantly trying to achieve goals for the organization, trying to achieve goals that require you to push your teams, and we don't always recognize and appreciate that the people, the people are the ones that do the work, and so we need to support the people. Very often, leaders also have to do the technical work, and so they don't have time, or they don't make time for the work of leadership, for the work of management. Leadership management takes time. Dealing with people, working with people, trying to get the best out of people really takes time. It takes energy, it takes commitment, it takes focus. There's a lot of things that go into being a good leader. When we talk about leadership, both of people and organizations, it's really critical to remember that these are things that you can work on. Leadership development, it should be something that is part of every organization. It should be the focus in every organization. Building, developing, managing, retaining good leaders is something that has to be done explicitly. You have to think about it, you have to plan for it, you have to organize it, and you have to implement it. You have to continuously and consistently continue to develop leadership in your organization. As psychologists, I think we are well suited to help you with that. We are well suited to do that. In terms of the coaching and the consulting, but also in terms of being leaders ourselves. I think it's really important that we recognize that psychologists and people who approach the work from a psychologically minded perspective, and use psychological principles make good leaders. They have the foundation to be able to build upon. Now, it's not to say that just because you are psychologically minded or a psychologist makes you a great leader, but what I'm saying is that it gives you those tools, those skills, those abilities to be a great leader, because you do understand that human behavior impacts their performance. You understand that how someone is feeling emotionally impacts their ability to get their work done, and understand that you need to pay attention to that in order to make sure you get the best out of the people. You understand that relationships and relationship building between your team can help you improve your efficiency and your effectiveness. You understand that communicating clearly, consistently, continuously is important to making sure that your teams, the people that you're working with understand what is required of them, and understand how to achieve the goals that you have set for them. So I really am such a big fan of leadership. It's something that I do in my work. I love working with leaders, and I love working with leaders of all kinds and all types. As I said, I am consistently and continuously evolving as a leader, and I love working with others to help them do that. And I think this is something that all leaders should be paying attention to consistently and continuously. And it starts when you're a first time leader all the way to when you are CEO of a large organization. It's something that you should be consistently and continuously paying attention to. It's a skill that needs to be consistently and continuously updated. So I encourage every leader out there, every manager out there, everybody who is responsible for a business, for people, for a project, for anything, to really be thinking about how they lead. How do you lead? How do your people, your employees, your staff, how do they perceive you as a leader? What are your strengths as a leader? Because I think we all have strengths as a leader. And what are those things that you need to work on, those challenges that are hard for you as a leader? I know for me, I am not a micromanager. I am someone who really appreciates people who can work autonomously. And so when I have to manage people who require constant hand holding, who require my constant attention, it can be very challenging and very draining for me. And so I have to be mindful of how I am interacting with them, especially when I'm tired, when I'm fatigued, or when I'm short on time. I have to be very careful about continuing to make sure that I'm giving them their full attention while trying to push them to be more autonomous. But I think it's really important that everybody understand the areas that they struggle with as leaders, so that they can continuously improve upon them. So I would love to hear from everybody out there who is a leader, who is a manager, or who has worked with leaders and managers that that are really strong. What did you like about them? What made them such great leaders? And those that were not. What was it that was challenging about those leaders? So again, please contact me. Give me some feedback at Ernest@psychandbusiness.com. That's Ernest@psychandbusiness.com. And so I hope to hear from you so we can continue the conversation.